Hi guys, it's Graham here. We're at Alexandra's house right now. She has a couple floating shelves that she wants mounted on her walls, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you how to mount floating shelves. The floating shelves that we have, they're the Lack shelf from IKEA. You can get like different sizes of these, ranging from like, I don't know, little square ones to like, I don't know, 6 feet long or something. I find that they're really easy to put on the wall. Just has a metal bracket. The shelf just kind of like slides into place. So I'm gonna put these on the wall. I'm gonna show you the step-by-step process how to do it, and hopefully it'll inspire you to do it in your own home. So first you'll need your drill and some drill bits. Depending on the anchor, the wall type, and like the thing that I'm mounting on the wall, I'll use different types of drill bits, but I'll be using just like a regular spiral drill bit. This one has like a little brad point on the end. It's meant for like wood, metal, plaster, stuff like that. Depending on the anchor that you're using, you might need a couple different types of drill bits. So here I have a Phillips and a Robertson bit. I have a stud finder. This one's like a Franklin Sensors stud finder. It has a series of lights that will like illuminate the actual size of the stud in the wall. Okay, the next tool I use is a laser level. You can get really cheap ones on Amazon or at the hardware store. What this is gonna do is it's gonna give you like a perfectly level line across your wall. Just put the laser line up. You don't have to worry about filling with levels. This isn't like a necessary tool to have for like the beginner DIYer, but we pretty much use this in every single project. It's just kind of like a fail-safe. This is not necessary to have, but I would highly recommend looking into buying one for your beginner DIY toolkit. This is called a torpedo level. It's like a little miniature level. This is great because I just keep it in my back pocket. Even though we're using the laser line, I'll just put this on the shelf, just make sure that the bubble is like perfectly in the center, and I can just make small little tweaks after the fact. Tape measure, everybody should have a tape measure. We'll be able to measure the distance between the two shelves. Just make sure everything is centered. Pencil, Post-it note. When I use the stud finder to find the studs, I'll put up a Post-it note or like a little piece of tape, and I'll just mark on either side of the stud. In the case that like the bracket doesn't line up perfectly, rather than marking like the center, I mark either side, and I know that that screw is gonna go into a stud. Next, we have anchors and screws. I'll be using screws to go into a stud. Hopefully it's a wood stud, but if it's a metal stud, you'll need metal screws, which have like a specific thread to them. I think in this old house, they're probably wood studs.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
Generally, you want like 2 strong points of contact with a floating shelf bracket like the one that we're using. In the case that we only kind of screw it into one stud, if it doesn't span that distance enough, I'll be using toggle bolts. These, I think, hold up to like 250 pounds per anchor in drywall. They're very strong. You kind of just don't want to use any regular anchor when doing floating shelves. First, I'm gonna take down this beautiful poster. We've already figured out where we're gonna put the shelves. We're gonna put one like down here and probably one up here. And I'm gonna probably cover this hole with the top shelf. Alexandra told me that she wants the center of the shelf to be perfectly in the middle between these 2 doors. So I have 63.5. So it's gonna be 31.75, I think. If you're ever in doubt, you just fold your tape measure in half. The center of this curve is gonna be your halfway mark. But yeah, 31.75. I'm just gonna put a little faint mark. And then I'm gonna use the laser line. I'm just gonna put a vertical line on the wall. So now I know the shelf's gonna go up here and down here. I'll grab a stud finder and Post-it notes, and I'll try to locate the stud. So there, 3 lights indicates an 1.5 inch stud. So we know that there's gonna be a stud there. And I'll put a Post-it note in between the 2 shelves, and I'll just mark on either side of the lights. So I know that that's the center of the stud. There's no point in finding a stud on this side of the Post-it note because I don't think the shelf's gonna extend that far over. A stud is roughly around 16 inches between studs. So if you're ever in doubt and you don't know if it's a stud or not, you just throw up your tape measure. So we have the stud here, and then I bet there's gonna be a stud right at 16. So yeah. That worked out pretty well. The reason why I say like the 16 inches is because if you're like using your stud finder and you find like something that's like in between that 16-inch, I would probably stay away from that because it could be like, you know, water line or just depending whatever you have on the other side of the wall. The center of the shelf is here. We have one stud on either side, which is great. The bracket is only 24 inches wide, so we already have two really solid points of contact. This is like best case scenario. At some point down the road, I'll show you like a worst case scenario video, but for now, this is great. So there is like an up and down with this shelf. The side that's always facing down has two screw holes, and that just kind of secures the shelf onto the bracket. The shelf bracket's kind of angled, like upwards, so you can put weight on the shelf and it will kind of like level itself. But if you put the bracket upside down, then the shelf is going to be angled downwards. This bracket has like a bunch of different screw holes in it, so you don't have to just put it one place or the other. You can kind of like shift it around a little bit. The laser line is being projected onto the bracket. Then I'm just gonna use my pencil and just mark each screw hole on the wall. And then if you don't have a laser line, you just have like a level like this, put it on the top there, and then you just wanna adjust it until this bubble is perfectly in between those two lines.
And what about the bubble to the left?
This bubble shows you how much it's off by. The only one that's really important is this horizontal bubble. I'm just gonna make a mark where the stud lines are. So I know this is the hole that I'm gonna be drilling into the stud. Because the floating shelf bracket is going into two studs, I'm actually not gonna be using those toggle bolt anchors. I'm just gonna use this dull drill bit and I'm just gonna double check. And this will also tell us if they're wood or metal studs. And the way you can tell is that you'll usually find wood dust or metal shavings or something.
So what has this told you?
I think it's metal.
This is metal?
Yeah. Yeah, see, there's like little metal shavings. So it's not perfect. These studs are actually metal. I am gonna use toggle bolts. Metal studs aren't nearly as strong as wood studs in terms of like mounting stuff too. But when you put a toggle bolt into a metal stud, it's actually very strong. I'm just gonna grab a Post-it note. I will just put this right below the hole and I'll fold it, and hopefully that will collect a little bit of dust just to make it like less of a mess when you're doing this. So unfortunately with toggle bolts, they do need a larger hole because you have to feed this through the wall. And then yeah, it just collects all that dust.
Oh yeah.
Next, we have to feed the toggle bolt through the wall. It has these two tabs here. You can see how it, when I pinch them together and slide them, it changes like the angle of this. So when they're perfectly lined up, you know behind the wall that the anchor is perfectly parallel. Okay, once it's through, you kind of straighten it out and then use this little collar. You tighten it against the wall, pull, and then it just snaps off.
That's really satisfying.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. Do it again. Okay, so we have one shelf bracket ready to mount, but before I put the shelf in place, I'm gonna have both brackets up, and then we can put the shelves on all at the same time. So I'm just gonna repeat exactly what I did for the second shelf. I'm gonna put the toggle bolt in place, and I'm gonna use the drill. All these drills, they come with different settings. So I'm gonna go to the screw icon, and then you can adjust this collar, which adjusts the amount of torque. So it can only go so tight. So again, just find those holes. The holes point to the ground. Line up that center point. And with these, I find it's best if you kind of start screwing it in with your fingers rather than with a drill or a screwdriver or something, because you can kind of like cross thread them sometimes and damage the anchor behind the wall, and then you have to start all over again. So just make sure that they're biting into the anchor before you go at it with your drill. I'm not gonna do it 100% tight at first. We have all this wiggle room, so we can level it perfectly as we screw it in. So then I'm gonna put the level up one more time. It says that we're a little bit high here on this side. So I'm just gonna screw this in. And then I'm going to just raise this side up a bit. You see how the bubble just moved slightly? There you go. So I'm just gonna tighten it. There. You know what? I'll use the laser level and I'll just make sure that they're perfectly aligned. Okay. Pretty easy. And all our pencil is pretty much covered up by the bracket. So you can just kind of line up the holes, tilt it up, and then just slide it in. Ta-da. It's these screws. And that just prevents the shelf from sliding off the wall.